Okay, fantastic. I think the best way to start things off is if we just go along the line and we just introduce ourselves. So take it away, Megan.
I'm Megan.
I'm Sarita.
Patu. Chloe.
Ella.
Joey.
Elliot.
Holly.
Olivia. Kat. Francesca.
Maddie.
Danny.
What were the mirrors about?
Do you want to do that one now? Get it onto you.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, my kind of response with that sort of question is, I think that everybody will read them slightly differently, and perhaps they mean a different thing to every person in the audience. So I would say it's whatever it was to you, whether you feel that that might have been the idea of one's own self-reflection, the obsession with how we look or how we should look, whether it's based on kind of a mirror of society. Obviously we use them theatrically in different ways to be different things, to frame images and, you know, to be sort of notepads, iPads and things like that in the office sort of sequences. But as far as them as a piece of symbolism, it's really whatever anyone feels they've taken from it.
Why did you choose physical theatre over, obviously, spoken word for this piece in particular?
So, obviously, some of you know, some of you don't. The reason that we chose to do the whole thing with no words was originally when we first did it, we performed it in Italy, and it had to be something that could be understood through whatever language. So we chose to obviously do it that way. Physical theatre is my passion and movement is my passion. So from a directing point of view, it was sort of an experimental piece in that way for me as well. But also from the practical side of anyone being able to hopefully understand it, whatever language you speak.
I think I'm going to ask a question to the cast actually. In terms, so Joe was talking about the physical theatre. In your process of devising and rehearsing the piece, how did you start off? What were the first things you sort of did to start off? I'll ask that one to Elliot. Elliot, if you want to kick off.
Thank you, Sam. We were kind of like the very initial processes, we were kind of given like pieces of like stimuli and stuff. A lot of it you might have seen kind of coming up on the stairs is kind of, we got given pictures of kind of, what were some of them? Some of them directly mirrored what we did there. Like there was one where there was a male kind of person and it had like things hooked up to their brain, which what they were supposed to be. And obviously the same with the female. Those sort of images to just creatively inspire us. And then we just explored those physically kind of in groups and then kind of just put that all together and then that was the piece.
In a kind of, because we're all different ages, so we're in different separate classes, and we kind of a piece that part of it that I'm really really proud of is the puppet sequence with the bras and the two puppets, which we actually did in an emerging artist class, and a lot of that came from us, which was nice to then put it in the piece because it was a very cooperative, we told a cooperative story because we all did it together, which was nice.
Mm-hmm. Danny, is that?
Yeah, I think Megan touched on the sort of theme of age as well, and I think that this sort of topic regarding gender and stuff, it's, I mean, obviously I'm the oldest here, and Ella's obviously the youngest, and throughout this process I haven't noticed it. Like I've just been working with her and everyone in between, and it's a topic that can touch everyone, no matter what your age, and obviously it starts from a very young age, depending, you know, you might buy certain toys or clothes, right, like the sort of stereotypical colours sort of thing, because, you know, that's just what it's always been, it's the way it's always been. You know, all the way up to what you do now, you know, the sports that you might play or the jobs you might do, and I think that age is also, it's tied so closely within this gender stereotypical realm that working with someone as young as Ella and everyone in between has been very eye-opening.
Yes.
So just following on from that, it was brilliant, so powerful. All of you as young adults in your formative years, I'm just wondering if anybody would like to share how it's affected them personally in their personal development.
Okay then. Well, I think before we
started this, kind of, stereotypical roles were just a normal thing, like part of my everyday life. People would just say, oh, that's too boyish or that's too girly, And I just, get along with it, like, okay, that's what everyone says to me, that's what everyone says in general. And I didn't realise how much it goes on, like how many people say it and how many people like put this in front of people like this is what you need to be. Until we actually like pointed it out and we started putting it in more of a literal way. And I've realised that like everyone is saying it, even in like the slightest ways, like it's always being said and it's always been like people are always forced to do things. And sometimes people don't even realise it's happening because it happens so often. So that's kind of what I see through working, with this.
I wonder if that's caused you any challenges, like when you might have that growth, but like in your life, family, friends, school.
Yeah, I feel like mostly with friends that if they say it, it just kind of irritates me, like, please don't. And when I tell them, like, that's not really the best thing to say, they're like, oh, why? So, I mean, I have to explain a lot more, but I feel like, I don't know.
So you're an educator?
Yeah.
I think I get angry more often. I never used to, like, before we did this, I never used to notice all the little, side comments and, like, things that people, like, stuff like, oh, you throw like a girl. Like, I just found that really normal. But now, after doing this, I'm like, well, how is a girl supposed to throw? Like a human being. It just really annoys me now that we've done this.
Okay, yeah, Olivia.
I think it's more eye-opening to other people as well, because I normally wear boys' clothes. I play more video games and do more like, I don't know, typical things that girls would do. Like, I'm not really into all the makeup and hair stuff. I really prefer video games, and I like bands that apparently not girls aren't meant to like. Girls are meant to like Taylor Swift, but I don't know, My Chemical Romance or something. And it's really like, whenever I came to school once, it was on school uniform day and it was on Christmas time, and I wore a Call of Duty top, and everyone was laughing at me and was like, why is she wearing that? Like, she's a girl, she's not meant to be wearing that. And everyone else was wearing like really short skirts and stuff in winter time, which really didn't make any sense. And it kind of really did make me feel uncomfortable, because like, I don't belong here, I'm not meant to be wearing this. I should be wearing what every other girl is wearing, like a crop top or something. So then when we started this piece, none of us really knew what it was about. I mean, Ella didn't know what we were doing.
They still don't.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, thanks, Ellie. And then it was explained and stuff, and I felt, I don't feel as uncomfortable, and I feel like I can wear this stuff now, and I can go out in public and wear what I want. Like, I can wear a pair of jeans and a t-shirt instead of short skirts and typical things.
And I think carrying on from that, what's key in that is that it's about what you want. So it's not like, we're not saying, and my intention is never to say that the ultra feminine and the ultra masculine is wrong. It's just, let that be your choice, and if that's okay for you, that's okay for you. But equally, that might not be okay for everybody, and that should also be okay. I think it's that spectrum. Yeah.
How much had the idea changed from when you first started to now? Like, how much of the...
From my point of view, when it was first in my head, I knew I wanted to do something around gender, and as with a lot of stuff when you're working with students, it was very dependent on who was able to do the piece as well, and it so happens that the piece is more female weighted. That wasn't intentional, that was just based on students. So I think from my perspective originally, I had in my head a concept where perhaps the products were perhaps more equally balanced with male and female. And then also, again, from a logistical perspective, when we first did it, we didn't have Elliot as much, so it followed Ella's story, I suppose, more. And then in this round of rehearsals, we've managed to kind of bring them together more, which was what I originally wanted. So it has kind of evolved and it's kind of boomeranged a little bit. But I think that the concept and like the focus of it being about masculine and feminine struggle, and especially with things like work and career perhaps, and that balance of family and work has always sort of been there. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I saw your hand up as well, Kat. Did you want to add anything else?
Oh no, you pretty much covered it.
Oh. Yeah, do you want to add?
Well, from what I know, from what I've like experienced, I guess, in this, at the beginning it was kind of like legitimate, like everything was normal-ish, and this now is more like abstract, telling the story in more of an abstract way of how, and instead of like having a normal day life of things being thrown at you, it's literally thrown at you, and it's literally like in a factory, in like, you know, things like that. So I feel like at the beginning it was like, okay, this is someone's life, da-da-da. But now it's more like, this is how it works, like it works.
I actually understood that.
Really?
I feel like you've become more like tenuous than me and explaining things now. Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant. Well done. I like your point very much though, Josephine, about it's what you want, because that picture of the traditional wedding, I think it's very important that if you do this in front of young people that you make that point clear that it's what you want, because some people do want that traditional wedding, and perhaps it could be seen that people are saying that that traditional white wedding is a bad thing, but if it's what a person wants, as you said, it's
that's
their choice, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that, because we've had quite a lot of discussion around that, because I think as well in that moment, because we were looking for, like, I suppose, because a lot of this piece is stereotypes, and that is the thing, it's not necessarily, it's an extreme of certain ideals, and I think that one of the things that I think can be difficult for women, for anyone, but for women especially, is this juggle of home and work a lot of the time, and the kind of stigma that can come with that. And when we had discussions about possibly changing that bit actually, and maybe bringing out other things that weren't just the veil and the bouquet, and maybe other images and this and that, but again, it came down to a logistics thing. But I think if we do the piece again and make it longer and it becomes a fuller piece, that's something that I do want to explore, that it's not just focused on marriage or not marriage in that way, because of course it's a choice. Yeah.
And I love the posters up the stairs. I'd like to take a picture of those, please. It was very challenging for myself as a working mother, is how you're perceived as a person if you're a woman in work than if you're a male.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like the message is more, obviously, like we're saying everyone should be able to choose what they want, but I think what we were trying to portray was that people shouldn't feel boxed by the expectations, that if they want those things, then they can absolutely accept them. But for those people who don't feel comfortable in those kind of situations, that they should have the allowance and feel completely able and not self-conscious to do things that go against the norm. So.
Yes, yeah.
Like, what gave you the initial idea to choose the topic gender?
So, when we did the performance in Italy, the theme for the festival we were involved in was diversity. So, and then with the emerging artists group, which Danny and Megan were part of, we explored different different things around diversity and what diversity meant to all of us. And a common thing that kept coming up was gender. For me personally, it's a big thing as well. I have at different points in my life struggled with my own feminine, masculine, what is that, what do I wear, how do I dress, so it's a very sort of personal thing to me. And I think with generally this age group as well, it is something because you're trying to work out where you fit in the world and what is your identity and all of these different things. So we felt like it was, and like Danny said before, it's something that's relevant at any age because you always get it, whether you're 2 years old, 20 years old, 82 years old. You're constantly being referred to by a gender in different situations. Yeah.
How was it accepted in Italy with the other countries being there at the same time? Because different countries look on gender totally different than what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, how did the other
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say. It was interesting in Italy because obviously, yes, culturally it's very different. There was a couple of other groups who also did pieces around gender, and they were more, I suppose, satirical in the way they approached it, which, you know, is fine and has its place. I think I would say ours was well received, and I think people enjoyed it, and I think this is the thing about doing movement over something spoken sometimes. It's completely left to your own interpretation as well. There's things that you will take away from it. There are bits from this that people remember, and the same bits somebody else will forget. So it's like different bits speak to you at different points. And I think that perhaps that is what was more evident there. But I'd say it was
well, I mean, for me, I was kind of shocked by the relaxed nature of Italian theatre, and how people are as audiences. I mean, there are a lot of people talking and shouting and getting up and blah, blah, blah. But it's true, there were, and I mean, not blowing our own trumpet, but after we started, I definitely in Italy felt a kind of a click where the audience shut up and they were watching and they were fully engaged, and then when it came to us finishing and the applause, it was lovely to feel because we knew that they got at least something from it. Yeah. It was really nice to see.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Did you find it quite difficult to find the line of too ambiguous of a message versus too direct of a message and then leading the kind of audience on?
Yeah, I think whenever you devise, anyone in the audience who makes theatre or is an actor or whatever, it's so hard when you devise because you can go off on all these different tangents and you think, oh yeah, let's add that, let's that. And it was constantly like, okay, what are we trying to say? Let's bring it back, let's bring it back. I think that's always really difficult to do, especially in a piece that's only half an hour long, because there's a lot you're trying to say in a very short amount of time. I mean, yeah, I just have to say yes, it was difficult.
You're Olivia?
Oh, Olivia.
I feel like it was also kind of difficult to make it as well because some people might take it the wrong way, saying how the masculine, like if before we did the piece where Danny was getting dragged by Francesca, she it was mostly the masculine taking control of the feminine, and the feminine really not getting to say in anything and doing what the masculine is saying, which wasn't really our interpretation to say, oh, masculines are wrong, the feminine are right, like they should be doing this, the masculine shouldn't be doing that. But after we've added to the bit where the opposites, I feel like it made more sense, saying how maybe the feminine are also doing this and it's wrong as well. Like none of us should be taking control of each other's genders or should be taking control of anyone really, because they are their own person and you can't tell them what to do really. And it kind of takes away the bit that the masculine.
Yeah, that's true, because before we did add that last sort of bit in with Frankie dragging Danny, I remember sitting and looking at it and I said, oh, I feel like we're sort of saying it's too oppressive, like men are too oppressive of women, and that wasn't our message. So we had to then add in it's also equally wrong if the ultra feminine is doing that as well. Hopefully that's going to
Yeah.
I was just going to sort of add on to that, and I think with, like you say, with devising and how your message can be so ambiguous, I think it gets to the point every now and again during our process where we've sort of all come together and we've actually thought, okay, does it actually make sense, or are we just sort of sitting here thinking like, oh, it's great, yeah, like we're just sort of adding bits and taking bits out, and like obviously because we've been doing it for so long, we know what the story is and we know who the characters are and who is in control of what. But I think we've always kept a constant narrative running throughout, following Ella and her role and her growth, you know, and then growth into Frankie or whatever, you know, like it. I think the narrative speaks. Well, hopefully anyway.
Yes, yeah.
What's the plan for this piece moving forward?
Oh, that is a question. We're not sure. I'm not done with it yet, and I think a lot of us aren't done with it yet. We feel like we've got more to say with it, so.
It's not going to schools by any chance, is it?
A lot of people have asked us that.
It's a really
It's Austria, aren't we?
We're going to go on a cruise.
Massive like Euro tour.
Yeah, a few people have said that to us.
Disney World.
Brilliant. Okay, is that it? Any more last minute questions? No. Okay, fantastic. Thank you for coming along. I think we should give our cast one more round of applause.